A short story to start the morning. To make a long story short, I was recently pursued by the wife of the other man in my marriage. It was sweet karma that the man who cheated with my wife was now married to a cheater. To be honest, it was tempting. I didn't go looking for revenge, but revenge basically landed in my lap. I had divorced my wife and have been moving forward. I will continue to move forward. I realize that these fools are their own worst enemies. They don't need my help in ruining their own lives. I'm still raw and jaded more than ever. I'm hopeful that I haven't lost my faith in humanity. I rejected her. She doesn't know about her husband's past. I met this woman at a business conference. She was flirting, and at first, I was attracted to her. She gave the impression of being single, the wedding band. It wasn't until later I learned she was married, and it was like a punch to my gut. Her surname was that of the other man. It was like a bad dream, listening to her complain about how unhappy she was in her marriage. It was surreal. She was the wife of that piece of crap. I would have told her, but she was no better than that jerk. I wasn't the only man she was flirting with at this conference. She was getting plenty of attention, and I'm sure she was not there to target me as some kind of twisted revenge. She gave me her business card. The surname surprised me. Later that night, I Googled her and found her Facebook. I was blown away. She was the wife of that garbage. Karma for sure, but I never thought I'd get the car keys to that bus. Anyway, I was tempted. It was just so bizarre, and I also became suspicious. But really think it was pure coincidence. I decided to walk away from this situation and realized I want nothing to do with these wing nuts. I feel good. I kept my integrity. I'm not surprised that some people think my experience is unbelievable. The man I was a few years ago would never have believed that I ended up where I am today. Certain substance, I would have bet my life that my wife was the last person on earth to ever cheat. Turns out she did cheat on me, and with a total creep. I still have a hard time with who she ended up cheating with. So yeah, some things are just so freaking unbelievable. It's hard to think it can be true. Thank you to those who believe me. If this was me a few years ago, I wouldn't believe it myself. I was moving on, thinking I was doing okay. But this whole situation set me back. It's been hard to keep myself from becoming just another piece of crap. It's as though being a good man is a freaking waste. I think of my dad, and he was a good man. I always wanted to be like him. In the end, I just wasn't in the mood to get an STD. This woman is married to trash, and she was acting like trash. I realized I am better than mixing with trash. No amount of revenge is worth becoming trash too. I'm no monk. Hell, I was attracted to her believing she was single. But, when I looked her up and found her Facebook and discovered she was married to that garbage, my attraction to her was over. My attraction turned to disgust with her. And I admit I was seriously only interested in using her to get back at that piece of crap husband of hers. I admit I played along with her flirtations the next day. I enjoyed playing her, but I also felt sick about it. I felt nothing for her, and she was soaking up the false attention I gave her, and it made me think of my ex-wife soaking up all the false attention. She was getting from that creep. It was sick, because I realized people are lame when it comes to false attention that makes them feel special. It made me sick. I don't want to be sick. I want to get back to the old me. The old me who has no time for games. Who's secure in his own skin. A little backstory. I divorced my wife. The hardest thing was wrapping my mind around who I thought she was and who she really was. I would have bet my life she would never have cheated. She seemed so genuine, honest to a fault, kind and loving. To make matters worse, she cheated with someone who was a real piece of crap. I'm not exaggerating. This guy was real garbage. It's weird, but her cheating on me with someone so pathetic made me realize there was no way I could ever give her a second chance. The other man dumped her when I filed for divorce, and that did not surprise me. The single life has not worked out for her. She's tried to get me back, and I'm embarrassed for her in a way because it seemed so desperate. Plenty of folks will cheat with you, plenty of folks will sleep with you, but a precious few will really love you. My pride, my spirit was broken. These past few years have been painful. I told no one the real reason I divorced my wife. I would rather go away than for anyone to know she cheated on me and the crap she threw me away for. It makes me sick how infidelity has so many apologists who defend why someone cheats. I was lucky we didn't have kids, and yet this has affected me and has taken a long time to get myself together. I can't imagine how it must be for those who see their family blow up. I'm in my mid-30s. Ex-wife is 5 years younger. We were married for 4 years. I'm in a professional career, make good money, and I'm tall and fit. The other man is a fitness instructor who gets pedicures, is short, and earns a third of what I make. He is a personal trainer who has an endless supply of married women who he manipulates. I'd met him a couple of times. I thought he was not into women. My wife at the time wanted to lose some weight and get toned. She wasn't overweight at all. She explained she wanted to get toned and shake off 10 pounds. She exposed herself. I filed for divorce in less than a week. When the guy dumped her, she came crawling back a few months later. I told her no. In her attempt to win me back, she went to see my parents and told them what she did and how sorry she was. This made it even worse. I flipped out. She shamed me. The last thing I wanted was for anyone to know, least of all my family. If that wasn't enough, she also talked to a good friend of mine, hoping he'd be sympathetic. Like I said, I'd have rather be gone than for anyone to know. Her telling my family and my friends sealed the deal. This made me lose it. I can't count how many times I got into my car to go to this guy's place and give him a piece of my mind. Other than my parents and best friend, I've told no one why I divorced my wife. The knowledge is safe with them. My circle of friends and extended family don't know, and I want to keep it that way. I do feel sorry for my ex-wife. I loved her deeply for many years. There's nothing I can do that is worse than what she has done to herself. I'm working on getting back to the old me, the man I've always been. I can't lie, this whole thing has punctured my self-esteem. Being cheated on and lied to can play a number on you. Story 2. Rate's a bad start. I'm not even sure where to start. My wife and I have been together since we were teenagers. I've never slept with anyone else. We have 3 great children, all teenagers, and have been married for over 15 years. All is going well until social media came along. Long story cut short. My wife got addicted to Facebook, and in particular, to the attention she gets from various normally younger men who messaged her. She doesn't work and has plenty of time on her hands to accept the rather crude efforts of these men to be flirtatious. Unfortunately for her, a lot of these chats were rather easy for me to see. So I knew exactly what was going on. Rather than stop when she thought I knew what was going on, this gave her a reason to justify doing it even more. She hours upon hours in a week with the same 2 to 3 guys. If you're going to keep an eye on me, I'll give you something to watch. The reality was that however long I gave up spying and trusted her, she kept on doing it. I didn't have to see it to know what was going on. The hours and hours of using her phone or sitting at her PC behind closed doors gave it away. So, is that cheating? She was never crude or particularly sexual. She was essentially receiving the admiration of these crudely flirtatious guys who were happy to request photos of her so that they could justify sending some of their own. As far as I know, she never sent anything other than what she would publicly post on social media anyway. Another of the ES texting, cheating story you may think at this point? No, it gets worse. So at this point in our lives, the kid's not really a kid anymore. Her newfound confidence in her attractiveness, thanks both to all of the male admiration flowing in her direction via Facebook and reassurances from a growing circle of divorced, separated friends, where at that age, she also started to go out more. Chin and more and drink, both at home and when out and drank. The nights out became days out with nights in hotels with friends, 3 to 4 a year or even weekends out. Initially, believe it or not, I could handle the days, nights out because she shared those experiences with me by telling me all about them when she got back. However, as I became, in her eyes, more and more judgmental of her friend's behavior, it was always a friend, never her. What I got told became less and less. Therefore found myself having to ask about what went on rather than just sitting there and listening to her. I obviously asked questions that made her uncomfortable because she thought I'd be judgmental of some responses. She was right. So those answers became either lies or very watered down to such an extent that there was no point asking. A better man than me would have stopped asking, except I'd never know and leave it. But that isn't me. I long for the days when we shared everything, when I was different in her eyes. To other men, I could be told things, and as a result, our relationship was special because of that bond that had been there forever. We spent all our adult life together, and I don't see that as a bad thing. No, our relationship is like any other bad one where the woman, who's 40, wants to be 21 and a single hot chick whilst the guy, who is 40, willingly accepts that he is 40 and just wants a quiet life with a loving wife. She's not 21, and I've not got a loving wife. It sucks, and it continues to get worse. So, during their nights out, she's obviously attracted the admiration of those guys who are willing to flirt. I'm willing to flirt face to face, not just via Facebook. Some are the same guys, others are extra guys. Any admiration, as long as it's from a good-looking guy, is obviously accepted. Although when she gets home, she strangely tells me that nobody would ever be interested in her when there are so many 20-something girls out there. A few of these guys have kissed her. She's confessed, but only a kiss and only once. Various excuses are used, mistletoe, birthdays, goodnight, etc., all of which are plausible. But trust me, not everyone by a long stretch. I've dealt with that without a problem, but not when it's kept from me. One guy in particular, though, keeps coming up, and this is why I write. They've snogged several times, but always discreetly at the end of the night. In a dark alley or similar. She's been back to his place. But I'm sure that they didn't sleep together, and although I've told her what I think they've done, she'll only confess to one snog. But confessing to going back to his place. But confessing to any more than one snog. To put it into context, this guy is single and loves it. He's a muscle-bound, healthy living, East Coast beach apartment type of guy who is a woman's man, if you see what I mean. Not a settled down with a ready-made family type of guy. So, on the basis she always comes home to me, hasn't slept with another guy since she's with me, tells me occasionally she loves me and is a great mother to our 3 boys. Do I consider this cheating? Couple of other notes. I'm sure that she is bipolar or similar. Nothing is ever her fault. She's never wrong and loves to embarrass me in front of people by telling them about my infidelity, of which there is nothing of note, and how crap and controlling a husband I've become. I know that I'd be better off leaving, but can't. Don't ask me why, because I cannot answer. I just can't. I'm very low, but cannot do anything stupid, because it would be wrong for the boys and those who care for me. A few friends, my parents and my boss who's really supportive. So basically, I want you to tell me it's not cheating. But is it? That's Kinners. First of all, when she says she kissed a guy, the translation is that they slept together. That's an almost 100 accurate rule. This has gone from Facebook flirtation all the way to her going out, acting single with guys, and almost undoubtedly sleeping with these guys. And here you are on the sidelines doing nothing. You should have put your foot down with a no-tolerance policy during her Facebook phase. At this point, since your wife wants to be single, let her be single. Then divorce her. Yes, you're concerned about your teenagers, but divorce is better than them observing you tolerating your wife's disrespectful behavior. Is that the kind of example you want to set? But on the contrary, a better man would not have accepted this behavior from his wife and insisted she end it. And by better, I mean less naive and more confident. You think your wife hasn't had an affair? I'd say there's a good chance she has. But if she hasn't, it's only milliseconds away. This behavior is exactly how many affairs start, whether emotional or physical affair. You should have a sit-down with her yesterday and tell her you can't control what she does. But you can control what you accept from her. And you will no longer accept her. I no longer accept her crossing these marital boundaries, these secret Facebook episodes, the no and flirting with other men. Stop now? You expect full transparency from her going forward on all her devices. You expect accountability for her time when she's away. She will send no contact messages to all these men and block them on Facebook. If she refuses, implement the 180 to detach from her and go talk to an attorney to start divorce proceedings. Consider yourself lucky if she already hasn't had a physical affair yet. In short, wake the hell up, friend. Chanel response. I do care. I care desperately. I'm very, very low and desperate because of it. If I could grow a pair, I'd leave, but I'm struggling so much to decide whether that is the right thing for everyone. I've given my life to this person. I love her so much, and somewhere in my mind, I believe that she will one day wake up to herself and change. I wish I could put me first, but I cannot. Someone said dormant. Possibly that's correct, but not by choice. I did used to go out with her, until she started wanting to go out with her duck-about friends. Then I went out with her anyway, as in I went out with her despite the fact she didn't want me to. So she made sure that everyone hated me. It's the sulky guy. The father figure. The fun spoiler. Believe it or not, I had too much self-respect to continue going out with her. I don't have enough self-respect to leave her though. And to everyone saying put your foot down, look up bipolar or narcissistic. It causes emotional and verbal abuse to fly in my direction. It's incredibly painful and soul-destroying. Because I'm the man, even in this day and age, getting people to believe that my lovely, fun, happy wife is abusive to me is impossible. It's lonely, heartbreaking, soul-destroying, painful, and it happens very frequently. I'm already ashamed. It isn't making me leave. Only thing that'll work is that she sees me catch her with him. That way it's undeniable. I'm a loser and a jerk, but the self-respect simply ain't there, pal. My infidelity, honestly, a couple of kisses, bit more and a bit of fondling on 2 occasions, both when we were on a trial separation, led to her wanting me back after throwing me away. A typical case of not being wanted until someone else showed interest in me. Can she stop after 2? Yes, 2 or 3, honestly. Bottles of wine and a few beers. No, she has very little control and loves to drink. Kids are handling it pretty well. The middle one is trying to get involved. But by and large, they are at an age that they do their own thing. I'm not stupid, and every day I think that we've spoiled their lives, and I will forever regret that. But what little self-respect I do have allows me to tell myself that I do all that I can to protect them from the hell it would be for them if I wasn't there to take the daily abuse a narcissist needs to throw at someone. All local guys, all want her. Problem is, she's seen as a bit of a challenge because she doesn't give out that easy. I know that this sounds contradictory, but it's the being wanted that seems to turn her on, not the actual act. It makes sense when you think about it. She has to justify everything in her head. So the flirting crudeness, which originates from the guys, is not cheating in her head. The fact she dances and socializes openly with these guys in bars, in the company of her friends and people from our community, this cannot be cheating, because they are simply having fun, and if she were cheating it would be hidden. You can hear people thinking if her husband's okay with it. It's being chased that leads her on. I'm sure, based on evidence, that the one time I know her to have gone back to his place, that they did not sleep together. He wanted to, and suffice it to say, she couldn't. And I've seen messages from him that confirm that. I'm also confident that when she stays in hotels with her friends, that she has not slept with a guy. She needs to be seen as not cheating to keep the justification going in her head. I'm not stupid enough to say that I know for a fact she hasn't slept with another guy since being with me. Nobody can know, but I'm not hung up on that. It's the being chased, the being admired, and the undeniable by denied kissing, flirting, and almost emotional affairs that kill me. Hence the question, is it cheating? She absolutely, 100 convinces herself and those around her that she has never cheated. Yes, a stereotypical alpha would have walked away, would have stood up for himself and made her life hell. Personally, that isn't me. I'll take the crap to keep it from my kids. I'll look after her financially because money means nothing to me. I made my money once. I'll make it again if needed. I gave my word to look after her in sickness and in health, and I feel she is sick, but that might be making excuses. I genuinely appreciate everyone's feedback. Please don't think I'm ungrateful. I agree with the vast majority of what's been said, and to be honest, I'm closer to leaving than ever. However, the main thing that I'm learning is that her contagious justification of her actions needs to be avoided, and my own sense of what's right to prevail. If I divorce, I go alone and she gets everything. I don't care about anything other than the boys, but it would be almost impossible for a guy to get the kids in the UK unless you can prove abuse from her. And that in itself is another problem with British courts. Not many women are found of being abusive in a relationship. It's always the big men, not the timid, small women. My rather frustrating situation is that, as well as having what would appear to be a cheating wife, although the differences in English and American women's interpretation of conscious as somewhat comically identified by others means that I'm still not sure it absolutely 100 undeniable ticks that box. I'm so conditioned to being wrong that it makes it very hard to act. I'm not a dumb guy. Professionally, I'm relatively successful, and I've done a lot of research on both the state of our relationship and on my own mental health. To say I don't get it would be a lie. I do understand what's going on in my head, but actually managing to put myself first and do something about it is unbelievably difficult. I've lived my life for this woman. In fact, I'd say that I've lived through her. Like just in hindsight, I see how stupid and dangerous this is, but I cannot change that. I do next to nothing for myself. I do everything either for the boys, for her, or for someone else. When you add the fact that she is narcissistic and, almost therefore by definition, emotionally abusive into the mix, it may give you an idea of how hard the whole situation is. I agree entirely that the answer is to grow a pair and either give her a dose of her own medicine, then leave or just leave. I genuinely appreciate that. However, it's proving very difficult. Proving very difficult to do. Update. I saw my counselor this morning. You take on. I've only ever slept with my wife and hadn't had any adult relationships before her. However, I had a few girlfriends, maybe 5 to 6. Vision of those, only 3 were in any way serious. 2 of those 3 left me for my best friend at the time, not the same guy, 2 different best friends. The third also 2-timed me and dumped me. I've never really dumped a woman, girl. Then there's the case of my first proper boss. I worked for her for 4 years and was humiliated by her almost daily. I worked my back off for her, putting in massive hours, only for her to belittle me and take credit for my work. She was one of those promoted to the point of ignorance people who was in a job she knew nothing about. I made her look good, but she had to keep me in my place. I think possibly this has affected me a lot and may account for some of my self-doubt and insecurities. I'm not making excuses. I made that point clear to my counselor. I don't want to use those newly identified past life experiences to justify anything, but it obviously helps me understand how I've become what I am. Then, there's the question of what am I afraid of? We ran many scenarios. I'm not afraid of being alone. I think I'd like it, and if I chose to do so, I'm relatively confident that I could find someone. I'm not financially restricted. I'm basically not scared of anything that affects me personally after leaving, being left. What I am scared of is, 1, the conflict. Conflict terrifies me in a curl-up-in-a-corner kind of way. I know how stupid, childish, unmanly this sounds, but I'm being honest. I can hire and fire people professionally and make other tough day-to-day business decisions, including large financial decisions, without losing any sleep, but it's totally different in my personal life. I won't be able to protect her. Now, this is a revelation that I think my counselor and I, stumbled across this morning. I've lived my life to provide and protect her and the boys. By not being there, how can I do that? I cannot, and no doubt many of you will say that I don't need to. So, this is the next hurdle that I emotionally need to get over. So there you go, my heart on the table for you guys. I'm being honest and I appreciate a lot of it will make little or no sense. But it's what I am. 2 months later, I've been working hard on getting my head in the right place. As I'm sure is relatively common, it's difficult because one day I'll feel strongly okay. Vacation done. See, I'm leaving, but need to get everything in place before I announce that I'm leaving. The next day, I may feel I'm leaving now. I just need to tell her. Oh no, I can't. And sometimes I'll feel it's not that bad. Things seem better. Let's give it some time. I've been working on the 180 and talking weekly to a personal counselor, working hard on detaching with love and dealing with the codependency. I've hit rock bottom a couple of times and considered doing something stupid involving a cliff. But I assure you that it isn't an option for me. Kids, and there is no way that I'm going to be that selfish a father. So far, the veer has turned up nothing. Bedroom time has become non-existent. Her going out hasn't changed, and the phone remains permanently attached to her. That's sad. I've proof of something. I can see from phone records that I managed to get my hands on that in the early hours when she was very drunk and had been out all day previously, that she tried to contact this other man by calling him at the exact same time she was texting me to tell me she was with some friends and would contact me later to come and get her. It's probably as close as I'll get to proving anything, and right now, I feel that it may be enough for me to confront her. I know how pathetic I must appear to you guys, that I have this latest info on her, plus all of the backstory that makes it seem impossible to imagine staying, but I'm finding it so hard to make the decision. This is my life, and the pain of loving her is all that I've known for so many years. My head tells me that it hasn't always been painful, but my heart cannot remember it being any different. It's conditioning. Zerance, you should have filed for divorce long ago. The longer you put it off, the longer you stay in this hell. Just waiting for her to come around has not worked, has it? Can you tell us, honestly, what was it about your upbringing that made you so passive and lacking in self-worth? Sturts its bonds. As a child, I feared conflict. One of my earliest memories of this was seeing my friends being made to line up to take a beating from the headmaster, principal at school, and putting myself, emotionally, in place of the last boy in line, just imagining what it must be like for him to stand there, knowing what was coming his way. It scared me massively. After that, every time the headmaster principal would start to get angry, I would be terrified, more so of the build-up to the punishment than the punishment itself, to the point that one day I admitted to doing something I had not done because I simply couldn't cope with the build-up. anticipation of what was coming. Thankfully, the teachers seemed to understand that I was taking the blame without reason and decided not to punish me. As a child, I came from a loving home where my parents obviously understood me and seemed to shelter me from conflict situations. If I cried because I didn't want to do something, then by and large, they'd make sure that I didn't have to do it. I remember having to deal with the guilt that my parents took the flake from others who felt I let them down. All of that before I was 11. My father was very much a man's man outwardly, although my mother seemed to wind him up quite a bit, and I do remember him telling me if it wasn't for you kids, I'd have left her. But that said, it was all covered up very well, to the point that I didn't really remember him saying that until recently. My mother is a very loving woman, but I certainly think that there was a case of sweeping things under the carpet going on. My first bosses were all female, and they were really nasty. I was used extensively by them because they were promoted to the point of ignorance, so I'd be slave-driven to do all the paperwork, meetings, etc., that they were incapable of dealing with themselves. I fear sounding old-fashioned, but recently I found myself longing for the seemingly simpler days when roles within relationships were more clearly defined. It's not that I think for 1 second that there is any difference between sexes in terms of what individuals are capable of. It's just that these days I seem to be told to be a man, take no credit. Man, take no crap. Then be in touch with your feelings. Then be a provider, a hunter-gatherer. Then show your kids you love them. Although I said that my father was a man's, I think that he was also a very passive guy within the relationship. Perhaps because my mother was so willing to brush things under the carpet. He knew that at any point, she could lift that carpet and bring things up. I have the exact opposite type of wife who goes so far as to make things up, rewrite history in order to use them against me at every opportunity. Most often, those opportunities are when I question her about something. Again, as I've said many times, the best form of defense is attack. Try telling that to the Oakland Raiders. As a child, teenager, I was into very painful sports, where pain is a badge of honor and is essentially seen as good for you. I'm afraid that possibly as I got older, I gave up the sports to be spending more time with the woman I love. Maybe that mentality of pain is good for me transferred from physical to emotional. Certainly, after an argument and making up, I feel like I've achieved something positive, which in the cold light of day sounds stupid. Also, as I've mentioned previously, I never thought I was good enough in terms of physical appearance for my wife. She was out of my league, but somehow she became mine. I chased her for a year before she agreed to date me, and during that time, she had other boyfriends. Only when she saw me with another girl, did she accept my advances. In short, I hate conflict and the anticipation thereof. I can deal with it professionally. I manage staff all day, every day. But on a personal level, I'm terrified of the next argument, and regardless of how honest I am, I cannot answer why. What am I terrified of? My counselor noted a massive physical reaction when I realized that I'd missed a couple of calls from my wife during one of our sessions. Obviously, the phone was on silent during the session. I couldn't finish the session quick enough to get out and call her. I was physically shaking, worrying about it. I identified that my low confidence and low self-esteem make it difficult for me to credit myself with the right to expect my wife's emotional exclusivity. I'm old-fashioned enough to appreciate, expect the need for her to be physically exclusive in the marriage. Maybe it's why I frequently consider myself old-fashioned. We are preached to all the time about everyone having the right to this, that, and the other. Everyone should put themselves first. Everyone deserves to lead their own life, etc. Personally, I've always felt that my exclusive right to me ended when I got married. That was my commitment. I was now half of a marriage, not an individual. So she is exercising her right to be emotionally attached to others, mostly female friends, and I am jealous of that, but feel that I'm wrong to feel like that because she, as an individual, has the right to use her emotions as she wishes. If that bit is correct, that she can use her emotions with other girlfriends, then why is it wrong for her to be emotionally sharing herself with another man or men? This is my confusion, and this is why I find it so difficult to accept that an emotional affair, if even fair to call it an affair, is cheating. If it isn't cheating, then I cannot allow myself to be sufficiently selfish to walk away indeed. I've spent hours today in a text battle with her, with several opportunities to accept that we are over and leave, but for some reason, I just cannot go through with it. My male boss is a great help, and very much an alpha male. I broke down in front of him today. He appreciates that it's very difficult for me, but like most people, cannot understand why I don't value myself enough to do anything about it. At the moment, I can feel the pressure in my head building from the pressure to keep explaining to him why I don't leave. We do still sleep together. I don't think we've ever not shared the same bed, apart from when one of us is not home, obviously. To meet work, or her on her girly nights, weekends away. She hardly ever initiates anything, now or before things were barred, if I can remember that far back. When she does initiate it, it's just enough for her to say that she started it. And then it's over to me. If I initiate it, which I'm simply not doing at the moment, then 90% of the time she'll do very little in return. Occasionally I'll get something back, but again, only the minimum. So plenty of red flags, I know, but for me, sleeping together is not a massive part of a relationship. It's important but not the be-all and end-all. I'd rather be in a non-physical marriage than a loveless marriage. For example, the problem is that she's very outwardly physical. All the flirting, it makes me think that it must be me that turns her off. And then there's that thing where she makes it sound like a job you have to give out occasionally when you're married. It's only fair to the guy type of thing. Or even worse is the feeling that I should be grateful, as if I'm punching above my weight. It's horrible. I'm trying to remove myself emotionally from the absolute attachment to her. I'm scared of doing anything physical like sleeping in a different bed, telling her I'm detaching. So rather than do nothing and continue to live with the daily emotional war going on between various parts of my brain, common sense and logic versus reminiscing fear and optimism, I need to do something. Detaching emotionally, is that something that I feel is achievable right now? I believe that her primary driver in giving me this abuse is to try and prevent me from giving her the same when she goes out. There are two issues with this. Firstly, I don't give a crap. I just ask her about her day-night because I genuinely want to know what happened. After all, we used to tell each other everything. She inevitably lies. I catch her out, ask her why she lied, and then all hell breaks loose for days. Secondly, if I do give her crap as explained above, it's justified. She was out for hours, got very drunk, and lied. It's only a secondary consideration, or a handy byproduct if you will, that she gets to be abusive to me and keep me in my submissive place. I know you know this already, so I don't know why I'm telling you that. I suppose I'm scared of not being in a position to expect her to tell me about her time out with the girls. If she doesn't tell me, then I don't catch her out. If I don't catch her out, then we don't argue about it. If we don't argue about it, our relationship is okay, isn't it? That's what she'll think anyway. Thirdly, Quest. I kind of feel that she needs to feel that our relationship is crap, because when I come out with I'm leaving, it won't be a surprise to her. And if it isn't a surprise, it won't hurt as much as if she thought everything was good. I know that loads of you will say, what do you care about hurting her? She doesn't care about you, but that's the problem with being a nice guy who's codependent. I promise that I will do it. Just wanted to brain dump my feelings in the hope that possibly I can help others to go through this at some point in the future. I'm frustrated that people find it hard to believe that a man can be scared of a woman. I'm big, over 6 feet and around 240 pounds. She is petite. It's not a physical thing. As I've confirmed earlier, my counselor has identified potential PTSD and possible Stockholm Syndrome. When someone systematically, emotionally abuses you for years and years, your size means absolutely nothing. Your sex means absolutely nothing. I've been brought up to show nothing but love and respect towards women. Never put my hands on a woman, look after and protect them. I have not had my testosterone levels checked. I don't think it's a problem, because I'd say that I do have a fairly good sex drive. Just don't get to use it, but I will call with the doctor to ask him what he thinks. Not even sure where to look for psychological testing, but again, I'll ask the doctor and take it from there. I'm a successful guy professionally. I manage a load of staff every day and make good money. I have the respect of the staff, although I accept that I'm seen as a gently boss rather than a bully. I've had to discipline, fire and hire loads over the years. I also have the respect of my customers and clients. Basically, I long for a nice, easy life at home. My work life is so demanding and has been forever and stressful with responsibility and accountability. I don't need that at home, and rather than deal with it, I've always let it go. She's accumulated more and more confidence and control over the years, and the net result may well now be Stockholm Syndrome. Haven't texted her once in 2 days, hardly spoken, but when I have, it's been normal and to the point, not sad, not angry, in fact verging on happy. I'm content. When I've spoken to the boys, I've been more upbeat and positive than normal and engaged in what they've been up to. I'm sure she's overheard some of that, slept in the same bed, but with plenty of space between us, asked her once about her latest night out, regretted it immediately, but she sidestepped answering me. I walked away, pretending no big deal, and didn't ask her again. I'm caring less, but it's only a couple of days. I'm happy that I've made more progress in the last month than in total for the past 6 to 12 months. So, I'm viewing that positively. And in all honesty, I think the most obvious feedback that there is some change in the air is the way the boys have been with me. They seem to be happier in general, but particularly they seem to want to be around me more. One loves gaming, and he wants me to spend time gaming with him, for example. They just seem to treat me more as my own person or dad rather than mom's deputy. All that said, tonight, it's already past midnight here. I'm struggling. I cannot stop seeing one of the other men in my mind and feeling absolute hatred towards him. I know that the hatred should be directed at my WW. Fix anyway. I'm off to see if I can manage some sleep. I comment, we have two polar opposite stories here. One where the op took action right away. One where the op is used to this madness. Can you see the difference? Comment down below. Down below, subscribe and ring the bell. Taking a quick break, and then back to making the next video for you guys.